High-profile support for Robinson. His real name is Stephen Yaxley-Lennon from Elon Musk.
Oh, having him as a supporter is very helpful to our cause. I mean, goodness me. I mean, he's an absolute hero figure.
Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has said that the English Defence League co-founder Tommy Robinson isn't welcome in his party.
Yeah, I mean, two things. Firstly, the violent disorder. We've got terrible division in our cities. We've got parts of our inner city now that have become completely Muslim-dominated.
So Reform UK claims to be the champion of free speech. Yet they're turning away supporters for wearing Free Tommy Robinson t-shirts. The hypocrisy is almost too perfect. Watched a young bloke get denied entry at the Doncaster conference simply because his t-shirt expressed support for a controversial figure. If you believe political parties should practice what they preach about freedom of expression, you'll want to see this footage. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
Particularly young people in this country. So yes, he's very helpful indeed. Now look, everyone says, well, what about his comments on Tommy Robinson? Look, my position is perfectly clear on that. I never wanted Tommy Robinson to join UKIP. I don't want him to join Reform UK, and he won't be.
It all began after the riots, Southport riots this summer, but over the last few days, he's got increasingly inflammatory with his comments criticising Sir Keir Starmer. That he owns in support of Reform UK is a bit of a double-edged sword for Nigel Farage. So he's always liked to take a pop at the Labour government, Sir Keir Starmer.
You've probably heard Reform UK banging on about free speech. But what happens when someone tests their commitment to it? Well, the answer might surprise those who've bought into their freedom-loving rhetoric. Reform UK has meticulously crafted an identity as the political outsiders who dare to speak uncomfortable truths. They've positioned themselves as the last defenders on the ramparts of free expression, fighting valiantly against what they term the woke establishment. This messaging resonates powerfully with voters who feel their views have been marginalised or outright silenced in contemporary political discourse.
Underneath all of this, yes, you've got Muslim extremists, you've got some far right, yobs, violent people who look for an excuse, and that has led to a lot of British people saying, what the hell's going on? Our country is changing fundamentally. We've had successive general elections in which the Conservatives, following Labour, promised to reduce immigration numbers, yet we saw them. Behind it is a growing sense of unease in our country that we're losing our identity. And that is what led to that explosion of violence the other day. Now,
but actions speak louder than carefully crafted campaign messages. When a young man arrived at their Doncaster conference wearing a Free Tommy Robinson t-shirt, Reform UK's principled stance suddenly evaporated. Security promptly informed him he couldn't enter unless he removed or covered the shirt. The same organisation that routinely condemns censorship and champions unrestricted expression became remarkably concerned about which messages were acceptable within their own event. The disconnect is striking when you examine Reform UK's actual promises. Their manifesto explicitly pledges to protect freedom of speech and wage war against cancel culture. That dreaded modern phenomenon they claim is destroying British society. Their leadership regularly launches broadsides against other political parties, accusing them of creating echo chambers and stifling controversial voices. Video footage from the Doncaster incident captures the young supporters' genuine bewilderment. This is the so-called patriotic alternative party for the people, he remarks, confusion evident in his voice. The man clearly expected better from a political movement that had positioned itself as different from the establishment parties he'd grown disillusioned with. That moment of realisation, when rhetoric collides with reality, speaks volumes about the gap between Reform UK's public persona and its operational priorities. The broader context makes this situation even more revealing. Tommy Robinson represents a particularly thorny challenge for Reform UK's brand management. While undeniably controversial, Robinson's views align with sentiments held by a significant portion of Reform UK's support base. The party appears to be performing a delicate balancing act, wanting to attract Robinson's sympathetic voters while maintaining enough distance from Robinson himself to avoid negative associations. This calculated approach suggests something fundamental about Reform UK's strategy. They're prioritising electoral viability over ideological consistency. Their commitment to free speech appears to have clear boundaries, specifically where certain expressions might damage their broader appeal or brand image. It's less about defending a principle and more about harnessing a popular talking point. The irony becomes especially rich, considering Reform UK has repeatedly attacked mainstream parties for creating politically homogeneous environments and silencing dissenting opinions. Their criticism of echo chambers rings hollow when they so quickly enforce their own version of acceptable speech. At Doncaster, they demonstrated exactly the behaviour they claim to stand against, controlling which opinions can be expressed and which must be covered up. When political parties invoke lofty principles like freedom of expression, voters should ask whether those principles extend beyond convenient applications. Would Reform UK defend speech they find uncomfortable, damaging, or contrary to their interests? The evidence from Doncaster suggests they might not. Their reaction reveals a fundamental contradiction at the heart of their platform. They want the moral credibility of being free speech champions without the inherent messiness and unpredictability that true free expression entails. This isn't merely about a t-shirt or even Tommy Robinson specifically. It illustrates a broader phenomenon in political movements that rally around free speech as their battle cry. Too often, these calls for freedom mask a more selective reality. They want their speech protected, their views amplified, while maintaining control over which expressions are deemed acceptable within their sphere of influence. The Reform UK leadership's decision to deny entry based solely on a t-shirt's message suggests they're more concerned with controlling their narrative than standing firm on the principles they espouse. True champions of free expression would recognise that defending speech means defending expressions you might personally find distasteful or politically inconvenient. That's the test Reform UK failed at Doncaster. What we're witnessing here isn't merely an isolated incident at a conference. It's a fundamental question about principles. When political movements champion free speech only until someone tests those boundaries, we must question their sincerity. The inconsistency forces a critical examination. Is Reform UK genuinely committed to free expression, or selectively enforcing it to maintain control over its public image? This selective application of principles deserves our scepticism. If you truly value freedom of expression, demand more than empty rhetoric. Demand consistency in application, regardless of whether the message is convenient. Political integrity requires more than slogans. It requires the courage to uphold principles even when they're uncomfortable.